Welcome to our new show, The Unexplained, with Joanne and Janet. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Janet.
Tonight we're here with two guests, Rick and Elaine. They're going to be speaking about their connection with the UFO phenomenon. We'll get back to them in just a minute. Right now, we'd like to take the time to explain a little bit about the unexplained. Janet?
Yes, the unexplained basically is about paranormal experiences, experiences with UFOs, psychic phenomenon, dreams, palmistry, astrology, basically everything from A to Z.
That's right, Janet. You know, and we're not just going to be talking about it. We're really going to demonstrate here, right here on TV, how to create a birth chart, or read your palm, or actually meditate, and, of course, talk to your angels.
Great, and I understand we're going to be doing acupuncture.
That's right. Right here on TV, they're going to demonstrate, how to do acupuncture.
I don't know if I'd like that. I'd be kind of scared of that.
It's not scary. It's really easy.
Really?
So sit back, everyone, please, and enjoy the show.
TV will never be the same.
Janet, why don't you talk and explain a little bit to the viewers how you got involved in the UFO phenomenon?
Well, basically, I'd say about 35 years ago, I had seen a UFO, and shortly thereafter, I became very, very interested in the paranormal. I took a course, an adult ed course in school, and lo and behold, I found out that I have psychic abilities. I always knew certain things were going to happen before they were, and I took the course, and I basically started with psychometry, which is holding a person's jewelry and and telling them about them. And then I was involved with the Katie Beers case. The authorities contacted me, and actually I'm even in her book.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, really,
That's really good.
It amazed me too, yeah.
That's great.
But it's definitely, everyone's got the ability, and we're going to basically show people how they can bring it to fore if they'd like to.
That's great.
So, Joanne, tell us a little bit about our guests. We have interesting guests tonight.
Yes, we do. We have Rick and Elaine. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Rick is an artist here on Long Island who has been downloading a lot of work onto canvas.
Yes.
So, Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Some years ago, during the beginning of the decade, I had realized that I was being downloaded with information from an extraterrestrial source in which I was basically asked, would you use your abilities as an artist and hone them in a focused area for the sake of being a teacher of the masses as an artist? And,
Excuse me, Rick, but explain to our viewers what downloading means.
Downloading is a very generic term that can be used to describe basically in your sleeping hours or your waking hours how you are given information in the form of concepts, images, and pictures or full-blown ideas and scenarios, and you're asked to turn them into a form of a visual communication that can communicate with the common layman.
Wow.
Do you, how do you feel you've attained this experience? Have you seen a UFO? Do you feel, or
When I was
dreams?
when I was a child, I had a waking physical experience with my mother. We did see an unidentified flying object in the atmosphere, and during that time, you'd have to say, well, what else would it be? And then when I was a child, I had what would be called dream sequences that to this day cannot be differentiated from actual real-life memory.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
Is there a purpose to why these ETs might be giving you this information? Is it...
Oh, sure. This is not something new. This has been going on in terms of being teachers of the masses all along, as far back as the great prophets themselves, to great civil rights leaders of the 1960s, to great presidents of the United States, religious leaders of today, and so on and so forth. And it's just continued on through certain bloodlines that have been picked or chosen for whatever reason to, for the sake of not violating the Prime Directive, but for the sake of bringing about change on the planet, to follow the path of a new age of enlightenment instead of falling into the pitfall of a new world order.
Do you feel it's a positive? I'm certainly sure it is a positive experience. I mean,
Yes,
your
it's
artwork
been
is beautiful.
It's been wonderful. When I had a synchronicity at the age of 21, which is definitely a synchronicity because by law that's when you're considered to be an adult.
Right.
And during the when I had reached my early 20s, I not only was aware of what was going to take place, but with myself, but I was also aware of what had always been taking place for the past 20 years since the day I was born. It turns out that my family line itself has been intertwined with this for a very long time, a specific bloodline. So.
Well, that's great that you've had this awareness, you know, from childhood up to now that you are, you know, obviously you are a teacher, and that there's some purpose that they're giving you this information.
Yes, I've, gone one step further, and instead of just doing the artwork, I've also done lectures using slides of the artwork for the sake of reaching the common everyday person. You know, I like being surrounded by people who would be anywhere from having just a passing interest to maybe very skeptical. You know, that would be the truest test of a teacher.
And I would imagine that you found yourself running into these type of people now since childhood.
Yeah.
Do you, when you do this, where do you get the colors from? That's interesting. When you do your paintings.
Sometimes it's the best way I can explain the imagery itself and how it's handled, either from aesthetics or techniques or whatever. It's a basic partnership where they meet me halfway, I meet them. They'll give me so much, and then they say, now you go do something with it. So it's half up to me and half
So you have to
from
actually
them.
do the work.
Yeah. You know, and for some of us, you know, I'm not the only one. There's plenty of my kind spread across the planet, and we are aware of each other, even though we may never get to meet each other physically through our entire lives. But for some of us, it's a strenuous activity that really pushes you to the very limits of what is human.
Right.
Amazing.
So it is amazing.
Yeah.
Rick, have you come across anybody at this point right now that do the same paintings or do the same techniques that you do?
In the past, I would say 2 years, there's been like a wellspring similar to the bud of a flower opening up, in which I have become connected to various people, including other artists who are involved with the same subject matter. And it's been very interesting because even though you know there are others out there, it's quite another experience to actually meet these people and realize that this, once again, proving that it's something that has always been there.
Well, they say there are no coincidences in life. I'm certainly sure this was meant to be. It seems so anyway. Just like Joanne and I mean, she's involved with Star People, which is basically how we got to go.
That's right.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Star People, Joanne?
Star People is a group that meets once a month, the first Thursday of every month, and it's in the Eyes of Learning. It's located in Hicksville in the Levittown Hall. We get together and we talk about ET subjects, really basically any subject that's involved in the paranormal. We try to keep it open, and everyone that comes has a wonderful experience. Everybody meets people there, and they grow from that experience.
Totally.
There's always something that can be had with this, you know, and it's very good. And I'd like Rick to really show us one of his paintings. I've been waiting so anxiously to see one.
I brought one with me. The title of it is called The Coming.
Oh, that's
right?
so great.
And basically it depicts the fact that all of our philosophies, religious viewpoints, and ideas and concepts, whether closed-minded or open-minded, come from an original source. All right. The center figure, which almost looks like a viewfinder to Serenity, is exactly that. It's an image of Native American Father Sky from one of their own pieces of artwork, and it's translated here into something that represents an image of a new age, the first society to ever offer the path to follow. So,
you know, that in the center, it looks like a doorway.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
There have been other synchronicities that have come up with this, and the fact that this, which was to me at the time just a star, turned out to others to be the 8-pointed representation of Venus.
So true, yeah.
There are other things.
What is the lines on the bottom?
These symbols here, this is in terms of connecting concepts and whatever. This is the name of Muhammad in Arabic. And that basically would be like, since he was the seal of the prophets, the final, putting his name at the bottom would be like signing your John Hancock to a constitution of the global society.
Makes sense.
You know?
And what about the face at the top of it?
This here is a progenitor. representing the original source from which all these other religious symbols came from, okay, and beliefs and philosophies. Descending, being sent by the god or the extraterrestrial down onto a very inflamed planet, Earth, basically representing the idea that any time that a great prophet or teacher has risen to the occasion, it's only been because they've been needed to quell a corrupt environment, such as the persecution of Christians, or Confucius himself trying to calm the invasions of Mongoloids, or Buddha himself freeing the Hindus from the caste system, or Mecca, or Muhammad's relationship to leading people out of Mecca.
So it's basically a growth, is what you've actually
Right.
drawn, really.
It represents the beginning of what would eventually lead to today's 20th century global society.
Yes. Amazing, very
And that's
interesting.
one painting of many, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, you've painted.
Over the past number of years, I've done, I started out as a painter and evolved into a mixed media artist. And it's produced about 15 different works so far, ranging in many different mediums.
We also understand that you're going to be a celebrity. You're going to be on a show in September 4th.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Sure. There is which is something that comes right out of left field for me. It's an exhibition taking place in the city on September 4th. It's the opening day as well as the opening reception, called Spatial Relationships. It's one of the few milestones taking place to almost like a vanguard of awareness, where all of these other artists, abductees and otherwise, are putting in their artwork into this giant exhibition, in which it will bring about a great awareness of what's taking place with other artists involved with this. This will also involve things from music to poetry, videos, talks as well, and I myself have been invited to take part in speaking for about
Excellent.
10
great.
or 15 minutes.
That's
you know.
great.
Definitely.
I heard also, I was listening last night on radio, and you were on radio last
Yes.
night on the Joyce Keller show.
Yes, they found out about me and asked me to come in for an hour and do a show with Joyce Keller on WGBB. And that was a very interesting experience. That was the first time I had done that, and it was
You were
very
great.
good.
I was listening, and you were fantastic.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Well, we have a lot to talk about with you, Rick, still, but we need to introduce our next guest, Elaine. Welcome
Hi.
to the show.
Hi,
Thank you
Elaine.
for having me.
Would you like to tell the viewers, your experiencing with the UFOs?
Well, what really got me interested in this was many years ago, my father, who was one of the most honest people you could ever know, and also a skeptic, he saw a UFO, and when he came home and described this thing to my family, he was so excited about it that it became, I wanted to learn about it also, and it got me very interested. And over the years, I myself have seen many things that I don't know what they were, but they were just very interesting things that I can't explain what they were in the sky.
Right here on Long Island?
Right here on Long Island.
Wow.
Amazing.
Really
How old were
odd
you?
things.
How old were you when this first happened? Do you remember?
Well, as far as seeing these different things,
Yes. Yeah.
she's, I would say in my late 20s maybe, early 30s.
Seems to be a magic age. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
And one of the most oddest things I've ever seen was it was about 2 inches long at arm's length. It was a long piece of metal glinting from the sun, and it was in a bright daylight. For 2 days, it was in the same spot over my house.
Wow.
And you could see this as clear as a bell. It was a long piece of metal that didn't move for about 2 days.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And there was one other thing that happened not too long ago. This was in the evening now. There was a searchlight going around from the middle of the sky. This was not like a searchlight that comes from the side anywhere where you see those searchlights. It began in the middle of the sky, and it went around clockwise just like a lighthouse. It was the most oddest thing I have ever seen
Was
in
it
my life.
about where you live, or was
Where I
close
live.
to where you
Yes,
live? Yeah.
on Long Island.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Did anybody else
I
witness
really,
this?
I don't know, but it was just something that was really different. I mean,
Definitely.
there was no searchlight at the corner being projected out. This was from the middle of the sky, being projected out.
Did you
going
notice any
around.
colors or anything?
It
like
was
that?
white, like a filmy, thin white.
Was it misty
line.
around that, or? You know,
There were
clear?
clouds a little bit. It was clear, though, enough to really see this going around. You know, it was very interesting. And then I had another experience where we were having a barbecue with some neighbors, and there were these 3 little tiny oval shapes way up, like where the stars would be, and they were all moving together, like
Unison.
3 of them together.
Three
No,
again.
no wind,
Yeah.
no wind. And these things were just moving along way, way up, and they weren't balloons or anything like that. It was
And when did you
something
see this?
very
You can see
different.
it was different.
When did you see this last?
These little round things were about, I would say, about 5 years ago.
Oh, really? So it's not that far away.
No,
you
it's
know,
like
but
very vivid in my mind because it was so odd, you know. And then I had another experience a couple of years ago. I was out in my yard with my dog, and it was a very clear night. So, you know, you just look up because it's so
Right.
beautiful. And there was many stars out this night. And as I'm looking, one star, from being stationary, just started to move across the sky.
Wow.
And I don't think a satellite does that. I mean,
Was it going back and forth?
it just went just straight in a straight line, and then out of my view.
Right, no, I don't think a satellite does that.
No.
It was stationary, and then it just took off. And it was slow, but it made you look at this. It was
when
amazing.
when you
Right.
see these different things in the sky, do you ever feel that you've lost any time or anything, or have any magnificent dreams after this?
No, losing time, no. Nothing like that. Just in complete awe at the time when you see these things.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you don't witness
Right.
every day.
No.
You notice any marks on your body or anything like that after the sightings, or
No, I can't say that I have. I never thought to look.
Right,
right,
There was no
right.
reason for me to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually think that you had any, being taken up into a UFO?
No, not that I can recall anything
Right.
like that.
Has anyone else in your family had any experiences like this that you're aware of?
Yes, there's been a few other people who have seen what they call UFOs because they don't know what they are. And this is more than once. A few people in my family have seen.
It's something how
These things.
it's almost family
Stays
related.
right in the family.
It
I
does.
tell you, it amazes
really
me
does stay in
too.
the family.
What I've seen, my daughter and my grandson have seen, and this
Wow.
is over years, not
Right.
not within the same amount of time.
Right. Same here.
Yeah,
I've seen them, and my husband and children now are telling me all kinds of dreams that they've been having about UFOs and experiences. So yeah, something's definitely
Definitely
going
is an
on.
experience, that's for sure,
Definitely.
folks. Yeah, definitely
And I'd
is.
like to say that I think, I would honestly say about 7 years ago is when I really, became engrossed in the subject because they had an ad in the library tacked up on the bulletin board for people that were going to have a speaker on UFOs.
Oh wow.
So I thought, well, this is interesting. I'm interested. I'll just go. Well, one meeting led to other places that had meetings. And I am not a reader. I don't read, but I must have read 100 books on UFOs.
Wow.
I don't read. I don't have time for this. But when it comes to this subject, you cannot get enough, and you want to learn more
It's
and more.
amazing because the same thing has happened to myself and to Joanne, and here's the third
So
person.
there's
Here's
like
at
this
number 3
meeting
again.
triggered
Yeah.
something in you.
It just like it explodes. You just got to
Yes.
learn more and more about the subject. And like I say, I don't really read that much, but when it comes to this subject, I put it down. I go, well, that's enough for a while, and I go right back to it again.
It
Because
amazes
it's so
me because I've been
interesting.
there too. It's even to this day, if I see something, I may not get to read it, but I have many books,
Many books.
many
Oh,
books,
gosh,
many
many.
books. Yeah.
And I just want to say one more thing, that I really believe that today one of the most fascinating and intriguing things are those crop circles. And
Yes.
I really, really wish that somebody of importance from our country would really investigate those because they're just so phenomenal.
They are.
That-
We have one.
Yeah,
right
we
here
have
on Long
one right
Island.
not too
Oh,
far
really?
from this area. Yeah, that I've seen. We're going to probably go
Oh,
out there
not
one
too
day
surprised.
with our
Right.
cameras and bring you
Yes,
viewers
that
all
would be
back
great.
pictures of it.
Yeah, Janet went there, and
Yes. Yeah.
was
Well,
amazing.
and it was by coincidental. A friend of mine lives down that area, and she was the one that told me about it. And sure as life, nothing grows in this. Nothing at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, those things are amazing, and there's something to them. And
Oh, totally.
I mean, people really should investigate these. Not just in England. People from here should investigate this kind of a phenomenon.
Have you seen one, or it's just...
No, just from what I see on television and what I read about, they're unbelievable. And it's something worthwhile to check into.
My theory on crop circles basically is I think that's a message that the aliens are trying to get to us, and of course at this point we don't understand. If we could decipher it, I bet you there'd be a whole alphabet of, just of the certain curves in the way,
Because some of them are so beautiful.
They certainly are. Like pictures,
and rectangles are not made in nature.
Right.
That's for sure.
You don't see a rectangle in nature.
No, that's for sure.
And
they're very detailed.
Oh, yes.
It's,
It's like where they cut the grass, it looks like it's
Exactly.
just perfect. I think a landscape came in and did it, yeah. It's amazing. It's really, really amazing. It certainly is. Yeah.
Have you ever seen a crop circle, Rick?
I haven't, but the things that I have picked up on it is that basically what they are is a branding of the planet. And if there's anything to synchronicity, it would be that there's a relationship between when farmers want to claim a piece of cattle as their territory, they brand the cattle.
Yeah.
Now we have a situation where there's extraterrestrials abducting cattle, and therefore you get cattle mutilations. Then we have a situation where the same thing is being done again, where the planet itself is being branded. What that relates to is a termination of the experiment.
I never thought of it as being branded. Did you?
Exactly.
But
that's
the truth, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Well, they come down and they make their stamp on the
right.
surface, and then they leave. It's a sign. We can understand it if we develop the proper language to read the symbols. Basically, what you'll end up deciphering is a situation where they're saying, this experiment is coming to an end, so be ready.
When do you, know the time? Have they given you this information? I mean,
There's a collective conscious. You'll hear from everybody else that we live in pretty exciting times right now.
That we do.
There's no 1 year to say, well, this is when everything will change. It's been a gradual process since the beginning of the 1990s, which can be seen as a trial and error decade before we enter the 21st century.
Well, look at the floods, look at the hurricanes, in the past few years, so many things have been happening.
There's been change.
And you have to understand, when you use words like termination, there's many ways to understand that.
Well, to me,
Termination of the experiment can be a very good thing.
Right.
It can be like washing away the corrupt contaminants.
And entering into the new.
Yeah.
That's right. Which is the new millennium, yes.
Exactly. We have a few minutes left. Would you like to show us your other painting?
Sure, I had brought one more. This one here I had brought is called Sculpture of a Woman. This one here was a very interesting endeavor because it took me down another pathway that at some point in time I would like to experiment more with. This was a case of the artist himself placing himself in the position of an extraterrestrial and then producing a piece of artwork about that very same human race. In essence, it was basically trying to see the extraterrestrials that one comes in contact with as also artists themselves, with the power of creativity to create human life. That in itself is an artistic endeavor. You will read in many books and so forth that the power of creativity is an actual lesson themselves that certain gods must learn to use responsibly. The reason it's called Sculpture of a Woman is to drive home that connection between ourselves and the galactic community, in that you have the extraterrestrial or the alien or God as the master artist, creating life, seeding life on each planet. Then you have the artist within each global society imitating that power of God, because it goes back to the old philosophy, art imitates life. So you have that circular thought of connection there, almost like a holy trinity, the extraterrestrial, the artist, and that which is accomplished. The reason it was focused on a woman, from their perspective, is that it gets into the issue of, let's say, Mother Earth or Mother Nature, or the woman herself bringing about life and so forth. That immediately jumps to the relationship between the global society here and the galactic community at large.
Yeah. Do you? How often do you get these? Is it like in a sequence, or it just happens on occasion, or have you noticed any sequence?
It can be a case where they'll come to me, and a lot of times it comes in the form of a cluster bomb of information where it's just dropped on me, and then, you know, you have to pick it apart and disseminate and put it into a format that's going to be understood by those looking at it. It has to be a case where you have the responsibility of talking to people through your artwork.
Explain to us how you say it comes to you. I
Right.
mean, you know,
Is this done in a sleep state or an awakening?
It started out, of course, you'll hear this from other people as well, it's the easiest way to start. It starts out in the dream state. And this is something that has stemmed all the way back to childhood. There was a situation in my life where then it evolved into, after I turned 21 and so forth, into my early 20s up to now, it became a case where it was more prevalent in the waking hours itself. That in itself also acted as a sub-partnership in which what was given to me in the dream state was, or worked on in the waking state as well. You know, there'll be times I'm sitting there when something is just shot into my head while I'm thinking about it, and other times I'll wake up with it. So it's become a back and forth process now, much easier.
You probably have evolved too over the years, you know, from the first painting to now. So now you can have these visions given to you in an awakened state.
Yeah.
You know, which is, you know, it is a growth.
It's also a case where, much like a computer, if you ask a question, it would be like accessing something that, for the most part, I wasn't thinking of up until that point when the question was asked. So.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
I would like to know how Rick gets this information. Does it come into your mind in pictures?
It comes in pictures. It comes in a series of success pictures. It may come in the form of, let's say, a continuous movie reel.
Okay.
It may come in the form of just a concept without a picture.
Does it come into your mind like a flashcard would from far away?
It can be that.
Because I had an experience like this about 2 years ago, and I don't know if we have time.
no,
No,
actually,
at this point we
we're
don't,
getting
you know.
down to
It's
the
just
end.
a very odd thing because he did say that, and I've had
It
experiences
sparks
like
something
that. Yeah.
within you. You know, we'd
Well,
like to have you back on the show again,
Sometime,
you know,
sure.
in the future. And Janet, I can't believe that time is really
It's
went by so
amazing.
fast
It's like
on our
we
first
just
show.
started, yeah.
Would you tell the viewers what's next on the Unexplained?
Oh, yes. Our next week on our show, we're going to be interviewing a mother and a daughter who've had experiences with the UFO phenomenon right here in Long Island, folks. A lot of you out here that have had many experiences, and I'm sure it's going to be very interesting because we have spoken with them, and it's
Yeah,
going
they
to
have
be
a
story.
really
unique, yes.
fascinating story.
Yes,
So that's going to be good.
Yeah.
The show's
And
going to go.
Also, the end of this month.
That's right. We have a New Life Expo. It's going to be in Manhattan at the Hotel Pennsylvania.
Which will be there, folks.
Which will be there. We'll be taking our camera on location and interviewing speakers and guests for future shows. So really, the show we're going to cover a lot of topics.
Yes, we are.
So please, just, you know, stay tuned.
Stay with us, because TV will never be the same.
Right,
You know that. And also, come October, we're going to be going to the Omega Convention, which is a UFO
That's right.
convention. So we're going to have lots of things.
Oh,
This
we
is
do.
our first show, folks. And thanks for showing.
Thank you.